Greetings my friends. Today's video is entitled Metaverse Dreams, and it's really about my reflections on the future technology of the Metaverse, which is being pursued currently by many different companies, and it has great potential to transform the future of social interaction. So I'd like to talk a bit about that. Now, I've called this video Metaverse Dreams, not because I have some crazy idealism about the metaverse, because I'm quite cautious about it, but because it seemed to me that it was a fitting symbol, because the metaverse seems to be like the dream state, one of artificial reality, if we can call it reality. And it seems to me that compare it to a dream, and all the creative potential of that dream would be acknowledged, but at the same time we'd have to acknowledge the severe limitations compared to everyday living in normal social interactions, going for a meal with a friend, going for drinks with a friend, having a family get together in a family evening out at a restaurant or something like that. And it can't really compare with those experiences, because those experiences are so rich and fulfilling, and the idea of a graphically enhanced computer world doesn't really appeal to our notion of authentic living, and it's quite, we can just see conceptually the limitations that are inherent in that idea. And also I call it a dream state because this has spiritual connotations as well, because we could claim that the metaverse enhances our spiritual understanding, but we'd have to bear in mind that technology is often inimical to spiritual tradition, and I don't hold much spiritual hope for the future of technology, although it always has applications which I would use in the metaverse. I would use those applications to form a kind of spiritual outreach, and that's what I'm going to talk about next, because the metaverse is probably best for communication with and outreach to others, and that's probably its greatest benefit. If we think already on social media, we've got a great platform for reaching out to people all across the globe who would never otherwise have a chance to meet, although it can be very toxic at the same time. Well, sort of carved out a space on Twitter for myself, like a spiritual space where I talk about my interests, and I don't get much toxicity, so it suits me pretty well. And I imagine the metaverse would be quite a similar principle. If you don't look for trouble, then you probably won't find it. But so the communication potential is clearly huge. Reaching out to other people, maybe if there's something you want to pass on to others, like your inherited wisdom, because we all have individual experiences that give us our unique perspective on life and our unique wisdom, and it's good to share that with others, because that's part of what it means to live a spiritual life, in my opinion. Now, obviously, there's severe limitations to the idea of the metaverse, and it would undoubtedly be unhealthy in large doses. Again, same applies to Twitter or Facebook already. Large doses just absolutely toxic for the human soul, really. and the metaverse will be no different. Now, the potential for addiction is probably quite high with the metaverse, so one would have to watch out for that. And governments have to try and ensure that it's properly regulated so it doesn't become a negative sort of millstone around the neck on citizens' life experiences and quality of life, because I can imagine there will be people in the basement spending all day in the metaverse, and it just isn't healthy at all. My plans for the metaverse are to have a kind of wisdom space, and in a sort of library or contemplative setting. So the idea is to try and fight against the prevailing technological, what we might call technocratic focus of our age, and really from within the system to fight that system in a benign way, obviously, because trying to establish a good cause, that of spiritual tradition and traditional culture, reading classical music, classic cinema, all of these sort of interests, but especially like the philosophical side of life, questioning our life, looking for inherent meaning and depth of experience, which you probably won't find in the metaverse, but at least my space there would be about trying to deepen our human experiences and find philosophical wisdom and that sort of thing. So I can imagine that would be a very fruitful endeavour, and it would also counteract the worst excesses of the technology, because I can imagine with the technology it would also exaggerate the worst excesses of contemporary culture, like the consumerism and the excessive materialistic drives and the coarsening of public discourse, the coarsening of our pop culture, and all these sort of factors. And really, my space in the metaverse would be to counteract all that. And so I cautiously look forward to it, but will definitely look to limit my use of the technology, because it just isn't something you want to form an addiction with. And I say that as I have a vape, and I'm not addicted to my vape. And it's not something that you want to draw you into excessive hours pursuing alternate reality. It's a very inferior reality, isn't it? It's like an electronic reality. And the idea of this title, Metaverse Dreams, isn't, as I say, it's not to idealise it, it's to suggest it's like a dream state. It should be treated as a dream, and within that dream, obviously, as I said, you have great potential for creativity as long as you recognise the limitations, and in that way it can be a useful social tool, a useful creative tool. So I think it can really have great potential, but and of course it'll be a competitive market, for want of a better word. So I'm sure there'll be many metaverse challenges in the space, and obviously Meta is one of them. Zuckerberg's Meta, and Unity is another one I've heard of. There'll be lots, and be interesting to see how that plays out. But it's probably in around 5 to 10 years, isn't it? So there's plenty of time to prepare for that and consider what it might mean for broader society. But yeah, I cautiously welcome it. So here's hoping it all works to the public good. I'm sure there'll be many systemic issues with it in terms of coarsening of the culture and stuff like that, but it has potential for good, and that's what I'm holding to ultimately. So yeah, thank you for listening.